Hi, everybody. It is June 13th, 2024. I'm in my happy place where my brother Paul and I used to come and have a coffee and watch Elvis videos on my smartphone. So I'm posting these videos as a journal to deal with the trauma of being separated from my brother by his group home, L'Arche, L'Arche. It's a worldwide cult started by two sex predators, Jean Vanier, a Canadian naval officer retired, and Thomas Philippe, a defrocked, disgraced Catholic priest who was ejected or excommunicated from the Catholic Church by the Vatican in Rome. So on September 12th of 2024, they ordered my 81-year-old nun sister in Ontario to terminate Paul's visits with me here in Burnaby, and on April 13th, 2024. Did I say September? So September 12th, 2022, L'Arche terminated my visits with Paul. And we had been visiting basically for 65 years up to that point. 64 years. And then on April 13th, 2024, Paul had a stroke, or something happened to him, and he ended up at Burnaby General Hospital. So for 588 days, 10 hours, and 15 minutes, Paul and I were, Paul was isolated and confined away from me. I'm his last living relative in the Lower Mainland, in Greater Vancouver. So these videos are my way of trying to process the trauma. My family doctor has referred me to a trauma counselor, so I'm also seeking therapy from a trauma counselor, because I literally watched my brother be killed, I believe, in front of my eyes at the Burnaby General Hospital. He appeared to me to be recovering from a stroke or whatever had happened to him. And then suddenly I was told he was dying, and he was dead the next day. So today, what I try and do is I just try and treat this like a regular job and work on it from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And today I had to respond to my sister's response. So I applied for permission to appeal the decision appointing my 81-year-old nun sister in Ontario as Paul's guardian. And I've appealed that. I'm applying for leave. You need permission in Canada to bring a case to the Supreme Court of Canada. So I had to draft my response to her response to my application for leave to appeal. And her lawyer said that I wasn't entitled to appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada because Paul had died, which is, of course, would be ironic if it was true, but it isn't true. That I pointed out a case where two applicants or two appellants to the Supreme Court of Canada had applied for, ironically, medical assistance in dying. Two disabled adults, but medically capable adults, had applied to the Supreme Court of Canada for leave to appeal because they were disabled, but they wanted to be eligible for medical assistance in dying. And they died before the hearing of their case, but they still, the case was still heard, and there was still judgment was rendered. So, and the other thing that my sister's lawyer said was that the Court of Appeal judges said that my behavior was erratic. And so I pointed out the fact that I had submitted to be examined by a psychiatrist in BC, and he had wrote a very nice report. It was a senior psychiatrist at the Royal Columbian Hospital in Westminster, wrote a very nice report recommending that I be permitted to visit my brother and that I have custody of him. And I also had paid 2 psychiatrists to examine Paul and to write reports on what was in his best interest, which the nun would not allow. And I also had a letter of recommendation from my parish priest and a letter of recommendation from my landlord, and I had called a witness, my former sister-in-law, who swore an affidavit and who gave evidence saying that I was best situated to be the guardian or the committee of my brother. So I just made those points. So what I'm trying to have the Supreme Court of Canada do is introduce Peter Falk's law into Canada. And Peter Falk's law, as I've pointed out before, is it's a trend in adult guardianship reform in the United States, where people who are legally appointed guardians, conservators or committees or representative of incapable adults are not permitted to isolate and confine them from their other loved ones. So as I've said before, in Peter Falk's case, he had 2 adult daughters who loved him very much, but his second wife, their stepmother, didn't let them visit him after he had a stroke. I assume it had something to do with money. It always does. Perhaps she didn't want them to know what his financial situation was. But Peter Falk's second wife didn't let his daughter, Catherine Falk, visit her dad. And so Catherine Falk started the Peter Falk Institute in the United States, which is a proponent of adult guardianship law, in particular to prevent legal guardians from isolating and confining incapable adults from their other loved ones. So very often what happens is if there's bad feelings in the family, the person who's appointed the legal guardian uses it as to retaliate against family members or loved ones that they don't like, and they withhold or isolate the incapable patient from his other loved ones. So in Peter Falk's case, the second wife wouldn't let the daughters visit him. And the changes to guardianship law across the United States in 22 states says that the legal guardian cannot isolate and confine the incapable adult from his other loved ones or her other loved ones. And that's what happened in my case. Is my nun sister and I mean, virtually she's a stranger to Paul and I don't like her and she doesn't like me, and there's some wounds of contention between us. So she used the purpose of her isolating Paul was twofold. One is she wanted to retaliate against me for the differences that we have, and also she didn't want me to get a sample of Paul's signature because I said that the representation agreement was a forgery. So that was I had to type up my response, and file it with the Supreme Court of Canada on their electronic online portal. And then I had to serve it on the other parties. So the other parties, the other respondents are my sister, the nun, the evil nun, the government of BC, the group home L'Arche, and the public guardian trustee of BC. So I got a lot of work done today. Right now, I would have been, according to the legal agreement that I had with L'Arche, this would have been, I had a visit with Paul at L'Arche from 4 to 5 on Thursdays, and I would go there and read books to him, and we would have tea together and do puzzles. It was always a wonderful time. And So I'd be visiting with Paul right now, according to the agreement that I had with Lars. And of course, 173 visits were canceled by Lars. And so that's about it for today. Paul, I have so many books and games and puzzles and art supplies for you. I really wish we could have had a visit today. I know you're in heaven and you're hanging out with Roger Moore and Sean Connery and Mom and Dad and Murray and Teresa. I'm sure you're having fun in heaven. I miss you so much, dear. I hope that you're looking down on us and you're praying for us and you'll help us in this fight for other people, other incapable adults, so that no one has to be suffered through the horrible pain that Lars and the nun put you and I through. I miss you. Take care, everybody. Oh, and don't forget to pray for us. Go to your temple, your synagogue, your church, your gurdwara, and pray for us. I can feel your prayers carrying us along. Contribute to our GoFundMe account. All you have to do is click on the GoFundMe link in the description box for this video and just kick in a couple of bucks. If we're granted leave to appeal, which we've got I think it's a 13% chance of being granted leave to appeal based on the probabilities. We'll need to hire a lawyer for the Supreme Court of Canada. And finally, copy and paste the email that I'll put in the description box for this video and send it to decision makers who can help change this cruel and barbaric practice of isolating incapable adults. I mean, really, there's nothing more sadistic and cruel. Even prisoners, in Kent, maximum security prison, can have in-person visits with their loved ones, but Paul couldn't visit with me. They let dogs on the ward after Paul had the stroke to visit him, and strangers from L'Arche, but I couldn't. I had three 10-minute visits with him a week. He was only alive for 10 days in the hospital. Anyways, that's it for now. Take care, everybody. I love you, Paul.